Before I get into it, a little bit about who we are. We have started to build up more of a presence in the Spanish market, but we are an American advertising technology company developing solutions for publishers and broadcasters. The company was founded 10 years ago by these two smiling American dudes in Denver, Colorado, Mike Sheehan and Steve Swoboda. And the way we refer to ourselves in market is really as a modern ad-serving platform for video. Excuse me. Why do we call ourselves a modern ad server? Well, 10 years ago when the company was founded, we were very much an exchange, a programmatic exchange. And over the years we've continued to develop solutions and tools for the supply side. Now, with ad serving capabilities, we partner with publishers as a technology and as a platform that allows publishers to manage the shift from direct sold to programmatic. This is another change that's happening at different speeds in different markets across the world. The US and the UK obviously are relatively advanced in programmatic, but I understand also that it's gaining traction in a significant way in Spain as well. So, what did we look into? Televisión Conectada, connected TV. Whenever you're looking at a project like this, the most important thing for you to do is define exactly what it is that we are referring to when we say the words connected TV. There's a lot of confusing terminology in the market: addressable TV, programmatic TV, connected TV. When we say connected TV, what we mean is any video content that is viewed on the large screen that is delivered through the open internet. So that's not via, let's say, a pay TV operator's closed network. It's not via cable, it's not via satellite, it's not via a closed IP network. It's over the public internet, and it's using applications to access that content. So that means that within the title of connected TV, you have devices like smart TVs, Samsung Smart TV, LG Smart TV, games consoles, Xbox 360, which is another device that people are now using to access video content and watch on the big screen. And finally, set-top boxes, these new devices that are coming out in markets across the world, devices like Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. These are the kind of core, let's say, components of what we're referring to when we say connected TV. In Spain, I think we've seen some of these devices arrive and some that are set to arrive. So indeed, I think there's a presence of Samsung Smart TVs here. Sky recently arrived in the market with an OTT offering, which is called Now TV in the UK. I believe it's called Sky Spain in Spain. And most recently, Amazon is going to enter the market with the Amazon Fire Stick. This device made a really big impact in the UK when it arrived a year or two ago. Some of our partners, some of our broadcasting partners have seen connected television inventory grow, especially as a result of Amazon Fire Stick. So I think it will be really interesting to see what effect this device has on the Spanish market. Talking about these devices, there was a piece of research, not ours actually, that was conducted to speak to the actual developers of the applications on these devices to gauge which are most popular, which platforms are developers creating apps for mainly. And this is the ranking for Europe. In America, Apple TV is very much in first position, followed by Roku. So there is, again, there are different players in different regions across the world. What does this mean for traditional linear television? It's obviously a disruptive phenomenon that's occurring now. However, this chart, it refers to the US market, but it's a typical pattern that we're seeing, that actually the arrival of OTT, or rather, connected devices as a way of accessing content, is not necessarily destroying linear TV. It's not necessarily taking users away from traditional TV. It's actually adding more consumption of video. We'll see how this trend develops over time. Perhaps we'll see a shift, a more dramatic shift away from linear television to OTT. However, the first results that we've seen is that this is incremental to linear television. And why am I here talking to you about it? Why does anybody care about connected TV? Well, it's an interesting format. It's an interesting format and an interesting opportunity for advertisers. For example, in comparison, let's say, to other digital video formats, the connected TV is on a huge screen. In comparison to, say, desktop or mobile, there is nowhere for a user to scroll away from the video. There's no such phenomenon, let's say, as viewability, which is so important to measure on desktop, because the format of desktop allows users to scroll away, to change the tab. That is not the case on connected TV. And obviously, when you're watching a long-form piece of content rather than a short video on desktop, you're in a very engaged state. And that's why we've seen such high completion rates or view-through rates. So almost 100% of advertising is viewed to complete, and viewed by an attentive, engaged user. So in comparison to other digital formats, it's really interesting. From a linear TV perspective, connected TV brings the possibility of applying digital data to what can only be described as a television experience. And then finally, measurement. An impression that's served on a connected TV is an impression recorded. Obviously, in the linear TV space, the way that we measure the reach of campaigns is via a different system altogether, a panel-based system. So it's arguable that reach calculations across connected TV might even be a little more accurate. So that's, I think, 3 reasons why this connected TV format is particularly interesting for advertisers. So, we partnered with a research firm called MTM. They're based in London, and we have conducted over the summer different research sessions in each market across Europe, and now I'm going to show you a little video where Joanna is going to explain a little bit more about the research in digital form, if it works.
We hired MTM London, a research firm based in London, to help us understand the value of OTT advertising in the different markets across Europe. We've been in Munich today, but we did similar research in Madrid, Milan, Paris, and we have London yet to come. They have guided us through the same framework in each country so that we'll have parity, looking at audience trends, are people watching more video on demand in each country, looking at broadband speeds, broadband penetration, regulatory framework, advertiser demand, and considering this in all the different countries to get a picture for the advertising revenue now from OTT and how we expect this to grow between now and 2020.
So MTN is a research and strategy consultancy focused on the intersection between media, technology and entertainment. We service our clients in a number of ways. Our clients come from across the TV and video ecosystem, some very large broadcasters in the US, UK and Europe, and some really interesting players that are emerging in the space as well. And some big digital giants who are also entering the space as well, much to the interest of the traditional TV players. So we've got a very good view right across the market of who's doing what and where they're going. We're running a workshop with SpotX, talking to people from across the TV value chain about the prospects for connected TV advertising.
We've had such a great turnout in this project. We've seen in different markets all different types of players attend the session, and that's really given, I think, a trustworthy perception of the market and a relevant one. So you've got broadcasters, you've got agencies, you've got pay TV providers, OTT platforms, really trying to give a big, or rather, let's say, a concise and complete image of the market. So we're really grateful to everyone that participated. Some of the people in the room fall into that category. Each session was conducted exactly the same. The same questions, the same category of questions were posed to each group of industry professionals, and the different areas that we were focusing on were really around audience viewing, so consumption trends and how that's changed, understanding a little bit more around advertiser demand. Do advertisers know about this format? Do they care about it? Are they willing to invest in it? What are the barriers that broadcasters face, and even barriers that the entire market faces when we're talking about connected TV? And finally, what we call market enablers, which is effectively, the conditions that are required for connected TV to grow. It's a sort of traffic light system. You can see on the graphic on the right that these are the high-level results that Spain that we found in the Spanish session. There was a lot of differing views during the Spanish session, but overall I think the image was pretty positive. This is how our industry professionals, our participants, sized up the market for connected TV across Europe. So UK was in sort of pole position, let's say, followed by Germany, and Spain, in fact, was the third largest market for connected TV in the 5 EU countries. As I said, there's different opinions on this topic, and it's a new market, and that means that we are creating a forecast here, but an educated forecast that has drawn on the opinions of professionals in the industry. In fact, our participants estimated that the size of the market in 2020 would be something around 105 million euros each year, and that represents the third largest growth rate in Europe. So, what were the conditions, what were the sort of specifics around these results? Well, the first one was around infrastructure in Spain. Actually, the broadband penetration in Spain is at about 76%, which is below average in Europe, however. The actual broadband that's available is really high speed. So that infrastructure that is required to view content in this way over the open internet exists in Spain. So from that perspective, the conditions are actually pretty good for the growth of connected TV. We have found, and actually since we conducted the research, more and more news stories seem to be coming out about the growth of OTT in Spain. Admittedly, you know, you've got some big global digital players, HBO, Netflix, which in 6 months has doubled its subscriber base in Spain alone. You have Amazon Prime, you have a lot of offers for consumers to choose from. You have Movistar Plus in different devices. You have a Tres Player, Mi Tele. There is actually a wealth of choice for the Spanish user on connected TV. And the figures are showing that, you know, the Spanish population actually really enjoys watching and consuming content in this fashion. I've heard, I've been here for a couple of days now, and in another conversation I also heard that linear TV in Spain is still very much a watch one program at the same time on linear, everybody watches it, and the next day everybody talks about it. It's a bit anecdotal, but that might be an argument to say actually, you know, the format of linear TV is still very, very strong, and that's as a result of the way the Spanish population consume content. So there's different ideas floating around here, but absolutely significant growth in the consumption of OTT. You know, I think it's fair to say that advertisers understand the power of television screen, and in the sense that it's an impactful format that ultimately, you know, delivers reach. And indeed, in the Spanish market, the linear TV pricing is so aggressive and so accessible that might have an effect on the growth of connected television. But you know, in our research session, actually, we had some people telling us connected TV doesn't exist in Spain. It's cero, I think was the word they said. Whereas another participant said over 50% of my OTT service, my TV Everywhere service, is via connected TVs. And actually, I have demand for that format, and I have advertisers that are willing to pay more money to access connected TV inventory. So again, you know, different perspectives. There was an opinion voiced during the session that, you know, due to the fact that there is far more competition in the connected TV, in the digital space, than there is in the linear TV space, that there is a lack of investment from some of the larger broadcasters in connected TV. You know, I think that's another matter of opinion that will be really interesting to hear from our panelists about, you know, what that really means. Ultimately, these global players are data-driven companies. They, you know, have very strong coverage of data and a strong understanding of how to operate that business. And perhaps, you know, on the more traditional broadcaster side, there's a feeling that that isn't necessarily an area of expertise. So I would rather compete where I know I can do well than try to go up against some of these larger global players. But then you see, news stories such as this one coming out that might suggest that, you know, some of these companies are looking at other ways of competing in the connected TV space. And then finally, market enablers. There's one common enabler that has come out of every single market, and that is the idea of holistic measurement across linear TV and online TV viewing, or connected TV viewing. In the UK, the TV measurement system is called BARB, and Barb has embarked on a project called Dovetail that is specifically geared towards measuring TV and online together. And that allows advertisers to understand with a little more detail the size of the opportunity, and it's facilitated more spend into the connected TV space. In Italy, the same story. Their measurement system is called Auditel. Next year, they are launching that project of holistic measurement across TV and digital. I think the current situation, I'm personally not actually familiar, it didn't come out, but maybe we'll hear it shortly from our panelists, around a project of a similar nature in Spain that's geared towards doing the same thing. First-party data is another enabler that was identified during the session. So this is simply a question that was raised. Well, there's so many different options for the Spanish audience at Tres Play, Mi Tele, Movistar Plus. Not all of them require a login. And if you don't have a login, you don't necessarily, that provider is not collecting data. These logins, this first-party data is an area where obviously the Netflixes and Amazons and Googles of the world are pretty strong. So increased coverage of first-party data is another key driver, I think, that we might see. And finally, just an increased awareness. There was an opinion voiced during the session that there is a generational gap, that the younger demographics know perfectly what OTT is, what connected TV is, but older demographics, the older population perhaps aren't aware. Many people, they say in Spain, have a smart TV, but they don't know how to connect it to the internet, and they don't want to, and they don't want to try. Again, it's anecdotal, but I think as more of these offerings come to market, the general level of awareness is going to rise. I think it's unavoidable. So, to conclude, I think it's fair to say that actually the Spanish market, when you look at it in comparison with other markets in Europe, is a dynamic market when you're looking at the context of OTT. Free-to-air, linear TV is still very strong in this market, and in fact it's very strong in most markets across Europe still. So this may slow the adoption of connected TV, but it cannot be ignored that consumption is changing, new offerings are there, and there's a definite appetite from users to start connecting their TVs and start consuming content in an online fashion. And that's all I have for you today. Please give a warm welcome to Marta and our panelists, who will be discussing some of the points I've raised in the presentation. Thank you.